Welcome back, everyone. So we'll continue where we have left in the first lecture. So we were talking about keys, and in the keys we have discussed about there are several types of keys, starting with super key, candidate key, primary key, alternate or secondary key, and foreign key. Now we have already discussed what the super key, candidate key, alternate, and secondary key is. Now the important part is what is the foreign key? In database management system, foreign key is the most important key because this is the only key which create a relation between the multiple entities, or you can say two entities. Now, when we talk about a foreign key, what the foreign key is? Simply, we can say that foreign key means what? A key which is always take a reference from a primary key. Let's understand with an example. Let me open the Excel sheet for you. Okay. All of you are able to see the Excel sheet now. Now here, let's say I'm creating a two entities. Entity number one as actors, and entity number two is an actress. Okay, simple. Now in this actors, we have, let's say, only the two columns. One is ID and second is a name. Simple here. Now, let's say this ID is a primary key. I hope you understood what the primary key is, which is uniquely identify a record. So here, let's say we have a certain ID starting from 1, 2, 7. Okay, so the name, first name we can take as a Ranveer, second we can take a Ranveer, third we can take as Ranveer, and let's say the Shahrukh. Then we can have one more here. Let's say Salman. Okay, so on we are having this here. Now, this ID belongs to Ranveer. Simple. We can say ID number 1 is of Ranveer. ID number 2 is a Ranveer. Simple here. Let's say we have one more table of actress. Here also we have a ID and name. Okay, let's say here we have a name as Madhuri. Then we can have as Deepika. Then we can have as Alia. We can have Priyanka. Okay. Now let's say this Deepika is a heroine or actress of Ranveer in a movie. By looking at these two different tables, it is very difficult to understand that who is related to whom. So in that case, here, how we can make a relation that she is actress of Ranveer. So we can choose the ID of Ranveer. So we can say here 1. So now can we say that this is related with this? Madhuri, let's say actress of Shahrukh. So we can give the ID as a 3. So here, this is also ID, this is also ID, but this ID will act as a foreign key, because now this ID number 1 does not belongs to Deepika. Actually, it belongs to Ranveer. And here this ID we have given just to create a relation between Ranveer and Deepika. Simple. So simply here, it helps us to create a relationship. So primary key and foreign key. Simple. So now when we talk about a foreign key, an important part of foreign key is that it always take a reference from one of the primary key. So we can say that this is taking a reference from here. So that's why it is a foreign key. So simple. So I hope the concept of primary key and foreign key is clear. Now, let's move ahead. So important part about the keys. Foreign key and primary key are the important part. Reason, they create a relation between the entities, and we are dealing with relational database management system. And the relation is always created with the help of primary key and foreign key. Clear? Now, move ahead. So simply, overall conclusion of keys is key are helping in uniquely identifying the records. DBMS or RDBMS allows only one unique identifier. So we choose a primary key, and foreign key always take a reference from a foreign key, primary key. So with the help of primary key and foreign key, we create a relation between the two entities, or you can say two or more entities. Very simple. Let's move ahead now. Now, the important part is a relationship in ER model. Just now we have learned, after finding out the keys, we find the relationship between the ER models. Simple. So after two or more entities are identified and defined with attributes, we determine if a relationship exists between the entities or not. How do we determine? With the help of primary key and foreign key. A relationship is nothing but a significant association between two entities or between an entity or itself. Sometimes some entity is related to itself also. An entity in the ER model is shown with the help of diamond. You can see here shop, diamond, department. This diamond represents that shop is related with the department. Now, in relationship, there are 4 different types of relationship. What do you mean by the 4 different types? First is unary, second binary, third ternary, and fourth is n-ray relationship. Unary, binary, ternary, n-ray. If we look at these words, they are the numerical words, right? Unary means single, binary means 2, ternary is 3, n-ray is n number of that. So when any entity related to itself considered as unary relationship. One entity related to itself is a unary. One entity related to another one entity is considered as binary relationship. Ternary, when one entity related to another 3, considered as a ternary relationship. N-ray relationship, when any entity related to n number of entities is an n-ray relationship. So simple. Unary, binary, ternary, n-ray. Now, when one table related to itself considered as unary relationship. Employee. Now, employee related with itself as a manager. So it will be called as a unary relationship. Understand with an example? Let's say we have a table. When we talk about a table, is nothing but an entity. Simple. And this table name is an employee. Okay, so this is the table in which I am having a employee ID, name of the employee, and manager ID. Okay, so we have a 3 columns or 3 attributes. Let's say we have a ID number 1, or we can say starting with 10, and we have n number of employees. Okay, so 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and we have a name as a B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. These are the name of the employees. Now let's say C is reporting to A. So what will be the manager ID for C? C reports to A. So what is the ID of A will be the manager ID for C? Can we say now this related to this? In the same table, this is a primary key and this will be the foreign. So can we say one table or one entity related to itself? So this will be considered as unary relationship. When one entity related to itself considered as a unary relationship. Simple. Now, next is a binary. What's a binary is? Simple. Binary means one entity related to another entity considered as binary relationship. Employee related with only one another entity department. It's a binary. One will be having a primary key, one will be having a foreign key. Yeah? No. Next is a ternary. Ternary is one related to another 3. Employee related to customer as well as department as well as dependent. So this will be considered as ternary relationship. Then n-ray relationship. When one entity related to n number of entities considered as n-ray relationship. So technically we can go for n number of relationships. But practically I would suggest that you must go maximum binary or at most ternary. You should not go beyond that. Reason is you can create technically n number of relationships, but handling that database becomes the difficult. So relationship can be the unary, binary, ternary, or n-ray, but practically we should go at most ternary, at maximum binary. Simple. So relationship is clear. So relationship is created with the help of primary key and foreign key. Now after the n-ray relationship, the important part is called as relationship cardinalities. What is a relationship cardinality? Cardinality means an instance of an entity related with another instance of entity, that is called a cardinalities. That is called a mapping cardinalities. So it expresses the number of entities to which another entity can be associated via relationship. Now in cardinalities also, we have a 4 types of cardinalities. 1 to 1, 1 to many to 1, and many to many. Simple. Now understand that. And this what you can see here, they are the symbols which define what kind of cardinalities are there. Simple. Now don't get confused between the types of relationship and relationship cardinalities. 1 to 1, 1 to many to 1, and many to many. Understand with an example here. Okay. Let me remove everything from here. I'll remove this. Let me select everything. And I say the delete. Okay, so we have cleared everything. Now let's say we are creating one entity as actor. So let's create it here. This is an actor. Same way, we create another as actress. Okay, same thing. I'm making it here actor ID and name. Here also we will have actress ID and name. Okay, let's say here 1, and we can make this as a primary key. Let's make it as a foreign. Concept of primary key and foreign key we have already discussed. Name is, let's say, the Ranveer, and here the name is Deepika. Okay, and this Deepika is related with the Ranveer, so here ID will come as a 1. Let's say we have another actress, Alia. Alia is not related with the Ranveer, so here the 1 will not come, that will be something else. So can we say Ranveer is related only with Deepika? So it is a 1 to 1. Very simple. So whenever there is a compulsorily 1 to 1 relationship is there, that means one instance of actor is related with one instance of actress. That will be called as 1 to 1 relationship. Simple here. Now, when we talk in our real life example, what will be there? Simply, here you can see entity A, entity B. A1 is related only with B1. A2 related only with B2. Same up till the A4. So here we can say A related with B with a cardinality of 1 to 1. For an example, we have 2 entities, husbands and wives. One husband is related with one wife. That will be the 1 to 1 relationship. Simple here. Next is called a 1 to many. What is a 1 to many? Excuse me. An entity in A is associated with any number of entity in B. But an entity in B can be associated with only one entity in A. That is called a 1 to many. Here you can see that A1 related with B1 and A1 is related with B2 as well. But if we look from B side, B1 is related with only A1, not with anything else. And if we look at this in example, now let's say in another movie, Ranveer has an actress as Alia. So in that case, Alia का भी actor ID क्या होगा? That will be the 1. So here, Deepika is also related with Ranveer. Alia is also related with the Ranveer. So Ranveer is related with more than 1, but from actress side, they are related with the 1. That will be 1, 2, many. Simple. So what could be the example of 1 to many in real life? We can say that one mother, many child. Mother is related with the many childs, but childs are related with that specific mother. That is a 1 to many. Now, 1 to many and many to 1 is always the same. If we look from mother side, it's a 1 to many. If we look from child side, it is a many to 1. Exactly opposite to 1 to many. B2, B1 are related with A1. A1 is related with B2 and B1. The star is represents many. 1 represents 1. So simply we can say that 1 to many and many to 1 is always the same. Simple. Last is called as many to many. An entity in A is associated with any number of entity in B, and an entity in B is associated with any number of entity in A, considered as many to many. Very simple here. So simply you can say that A1 is related with B1 also, A1 is related with B2 also, whereas B1 is related with A1 also, and B2 is also related with A1 also. Many to many. Here is also the star, asterisk. Here is also the asterisk. So A is related with B with the cardinalities of many to many. Simple here. Many to many is simple. What could be the example of many to many? We have talked about husband and wife, 1 to 1. We have talked about mother and child, 1 to many and many to 1. What will be the many to many? We can say that many brothers, many sisters. One brother can have many sisters. Same sister can have many brothers. That's a many to many. So simply here we can say that we have understood the ER model. Small recap. What the ER model is? Entity relationship model, which has 3 constructs: entity, attribute, and relationship. And for relationship, you must be knowing the keys. So we have discussed about the keys as well. So these cover the ER model. Now, after understanding the entities, attributes, their relationship, we can draw easily an ER diagram. This is a ER diagram simple. So here, simply we got it certain entities, their attributes, and their relationships. This is a sample. This is not a complete one. Simple. So with the help of ER diagram, we can get a conceptual database structure. So we got a conceptual database structure, and in that conceptual database structure, we got all the things what we needed. So now simply we can say that we know how to create a ER diagram. After creating the ER diagram, now these diagram can be created in actual RDBMS, and that will be called a physical database design. So that we'll learn how to use a SQL command. So till now, there were no SQL command. It was totally the conceptual part. So what we have learned till now? We have learned that SQL is a structured query language used for communicating with RDBMS, and RDBMS is used for storing the database. But for database, you have to have a structure, and that structure we can get with the ER module. So basically, our learning should go how? Not in this order, it should be in this order. First, we should be knowing the ER module. So now we know the ER module, which will give the database structure that has to be created in RDBMS with the help of SQL. Simple. So now SQL come into the picture. So what the SQL is? Structured query language. That means it's a language which is going to communicate with RDBMS. Now, SQL is also further divided into certain categories, not as a different languages, but based on their functionality, it is divided into certain categories. So first is called a DDL, DML, and DCL. These are the major three categories. Now, what do you mean by the DDL? These are the abbreviation of data definition language or data description language. Then DML, data manipulation language. DCL, data control language. So simply we can say that these are the three categories, not a three different languages. These categories are divided based on their functionality. So let's start with the first, called as DDL. So DDL, DML, DCL. Simply we have learned that DDL, data definition language, DML, data manipulation language, and DCL is a data control language. So first is DDL. What the DDL is? A data definition language or data description language. This is nothing but a syntax for defining data structures, especially the database schemas. What do you mean by the database structure? Look at this. Now here, this ID name, this is the column. This is not a data. This Ranveer is a data. Before storing the Ranveer, what we have done? We have created a structure. And that creating the structure, or you can say any syntax which is affecting the structure, is considered as DDL or data definition language. Simply we can say that any command or a syntax of SQL which is used for affecting the structure considered as DDL. And I hope you understood the difference between the structure and data. Here in actress, this is a 2 columns and this is an actual data. So you know that before inserting the actual data, we have to have a structure. And any command which is used for creating or modifying the structure is considered as DDL. Simple here. Now, let's say all the statements which are used to create, modify, or delete the structure of the database are called as DDL statements. Now, in the DDL, there are two principles applied. One, that all the DDL statements are implicitly committed, and all the DDL statements are affecting the structure. Either both or one of the principle apply on your syntax considered as a DDL statement, whether it should be implicitly committed or it should be the both. Simple. So basically it is only for structure, but if any command which is not affecting the structure but implicitly getting committed is also considered as a DDL statements. Now these statements can be freely mixed with all the SQL statement. So it's not a separate language that you have to keep in mind. So now, first thing, if you want to work with a database, or especially we can say relational database, step one is always a base creating a table. So the first step of DDL is creating a table. Simple. So in order to create a table, we must be having 4 pieces of information handy, or you can say beforehand. What are the 4 pieces? First piece, the name of the table. कहाँ से मिलेगा name of the table? In the ER model, we have talked about the entities. Those entities will be nothing but the name of the table. Whichever are the entities, they will become the name of the table. For the name of the table, we must be following the 2 rules. Rule number 1, table name should not exceed more than 32 characters. Rule number 1, टेबल का नाम 32 कैरेक्टर से ज्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए. Simple. Second rule, a table name cannot start with numerical character. For an example, let's say I want to give a table name as actor, actress 2 is allowed. But the same thing, if I give a 2 actress, with the difference here, it is not starting with 2. That's why it is allowed. But here it is starting with a 2, and 2 is a numerical character, so it is not allowed. Simple. So simply you can say that table name cannot start with numerical characters. So first piece is a table name, and we have talked about 2 rules of the table names. Second is called a column names or a field names. कहाँ से मिलेंगे ये? The attribute in ER module will become the column name. Now, what is the rule of column name? Simple rule. A column name cannot be duplicated in the same table. Same table में आप same column 2 बार use नहीं कर सकते. But that column name can be used in another table. We have already taken the example. ID was available in actor also, allowed. ID was available in actress also, allowed. But ID in actress 2 times not allowed. You have to change the name. Simple here. Second thing, we have talked about a table name. A table name should be the unique between the workspace. Same thing, a column name should be unique between within a table name. Third thing is required is called a column data types. What is a column data types? Which define what type of data that column can contain. That is called a column data types. Very simple. Now simply, if we say that column data type, almost we know what the data type is, but what are the major data types we use, that we'll discuss here. Then finally, fourth thing is called a column sizes. Now size is depends on the two things. One, a limit of the data type what you are using. Second is your requirement, is called a column sizes. So हमारे पास चार चीजें होनी चाहिए. टेबल का नाम, कॉलम का नाम, column data type, and column size. Out of these four, we already have table name with the help of entity, column name with the help of attributes, data type we are going to discuss, and size will depends on the data type and your requirement. So let's start with the picking a data type. The data type chosen for a column determine the nature of the data that can be stored in the column. This is termed the domain of a valid column value. Domain means उस data type के बाहर का कोई भी data वो column accept नहीं करेगा. Very simple here. Then in data types, majorly or you can say important data types are these we can discuss. First is called a VARCHAR2. Char, number, date, and timestamp. These are the major, because when we are storing a data, it could be a character, or sometime it could be a numbers, sometime it could be a date or a time. Simple. So three major types of data we are using. या तो numbers हो सकते हैं, या characters हो सकते हैं, या फिर date या time हो सकते हैं. Simple here. So that's why we have a VARCHAR2 or VARCHAR. Char, number, date, or timestamp. So first is a VARCHAR2. What the VARCHAR2 is? A VARCHAR2 type is a character data type to store the variable length variable length alpha number data in the column. Maximum size of the VARCHAR2 is 4,000 characters. What do you mean by the variable length? Understand here. Let's say I'm having this name, Deepika. Deepika is containing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characters. What should be the size here? So memory occupied here is 7, or we are using the data type here as VARCHAR2. I'm using the shortcut here, VARCHAR2, and I'm giving a size as 15. Sorry. Now the size of the column is a 15 character, but actual characters are 7. So what will be the size? 15 or 7? Hence it is a variable length. So it is going to occupy actual size of Deepika is a 7. Correct? Alia, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here the size will not 15 nor 7, it will be the 5. Very simple here. So simply you can say that variable length is storing a variable size. Variable length is storing the variable size. That's why it is called as a variable length data types. Clear? Next is called as cat. But before going to the cat, we can talk about difference between the varchar 2 and varchar. This is sometimes asked, what is the difference between the varchar 2 and varchar? So the major difference is there is no difference. So as far now, there is no difference. Varchar is reserved by Oracle to support distinction between the null and empty string in future, according to the ANSI standard prescribed. ANSI standard says that you should be having a difference between the empty and null, because empty and null is not actually the same. Varchar 2 does not distinguish between empty as well as null. So we must be thinking always empty and null as the same. So we should be considering the varchar 2 instead of varchar. Simple, that's the only difference between varchar 2 and varchar. Now, next data type is called as a char. What the char is? Char is a fixed length data type. Maximum size of the char is a 2000 character. Maximum length of the char is a 2000 character. Now, see the difference. Here, let's say this, we have used a varchar 2, and here I am using a char and 50. Now here, Ranveer, R1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is having a 7 character, but memory will be occupied fixed as a 15. See the difference? Here it is occupied 7. Here it is occupied as 15. Here it is occupied as a 15 character, fixed length. Even if I am having a name as RA, 2 characters are there, but it will occupy the 15. So simply can we say that we should be using the char only for those columns which is having a fixed length. What do you mean with a fixed length? हर रो में उस कॉलम में जो भी कैरेक्टर्स आएंगे उनकी लेंथ फिक्स्ड होगी. उस टाइप के कॉलम के लिए हम कौन सा डेटा टाइप यूज करते हैं? क्या? फॉर एग्जांपल, जेंडर. Gender can be defined by only one character, M or F. So the number of characters will be fixed for gender. That's why it is a char. Simple. varchar 2 कहाँ पे यूज करेंगे? जहां पे कॉलम की वैल्यू हमको पता है कि वो चेंज होती रहेगी. So there it will be a varchar 2. So that's the major difference. So what's the difference between the char and varchar? It's a variable length character data type, and it is a fixed length character data type. Clear? It has a maximum limit of 4000 character. It has a maximum length of 2000 character. Let's move ahead. These varchar 2 and char both are used for character data type. Only difference, one is a variable length, one is a fixed length. After the char, we have a number. Now usually we have so many data types available for the numbers. It could be the integer, it could be the decimal, it could be the float, but Oracle provide one data type called as a number that can allow you to put any kind of number, whether it's a negative, positive, integer, fixed decimal, or floating point decimal numbers. But the difference is it can accept only the numbers, not all the characters. So when a number type is used, a column has to be given a 2 sizes instead of 1. We have seen that for the char we have given 15 as a 1 size. For the variable varchar 2 we have given the 1 size as a 15. But when we use a number, in numbers, it accepted two types of sizes, or you can say the two sizes. And that's not called a size, that's called a precision and scale. What's a precision and scale? Precision means total number of digit allowed. And scale means number of digit allowed after the decimal points. Understand with an example. Let's see. I'll remove this now. And let's add one more thing called as salary. We have one extra attribute called a salary. Now salary will be the numbers. So we have to use a data type as number. But when we are using the number, in parenthesis, we provide two things, 5, comma 2. So we have given the two things, 5 as a precision, 2 as a scale. Precision 5 means what? Total digit will be allowed as 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But out of these 5, 2 are reserved for decimal point. 2 are reserved for decimal point. So it can accept a total digit 5. Out of that, 2 has to be the decimal. That decimal could be the 0, but actually it is now 3, not a 5. Simple. So this precision decides how much digit we can put in a particular column. And scale decides how much digits are allowed after the decimal point. Very simple here. So simply char is clear, varchar is clear, number is used for the numbers. Now in numbers, we have 3 types of numbers. One is a integer, second is fixed decimal, third is a float or floating decimal. What's the difference between these 3? Integer means no decimal value. Fixed decimal means number of decimal digits are fixed. And float means what? There is no cap for decimal points. It can be any number. That's a float. Simple here. So now, how can we use it as a decimal? Now with the help of this precision and scale, we can use it as an integer, fixed decimal, or a float. If I'm providing only precision, then it's an integer. Now if I give it here as only 5, that means total number of digits are allowed 5. For decimal, no additional digits are allowed. So now it will be accepting only 999999, no decimal value. So it's an integer. Fixed decimal, we provide both precision and scale. Now when I give it here as 5, 2, that means 2 are reserved for decimal. So it's a fixed decimal. अब decimal point भी 2 digit से ज़्यादा नहीं हो सकते. That's why it is a fixed decimal. Float. What is a float? Float is any number of digit before decimal, any number of digit after decimal. So simply what we do, no precision, no scale. Simply we use it as only number, without precision, without scale. So it is going to act as a float. Simple. So now I can provide here any numbers that will be allowed. This is just because of the Excel, we are getting this number, but it is this number we have inserted. Very simple here. Let's move ahead. So simply we can say that this precision and scale allowed the fixed, floating, and integer. Now fourth type of data is called as, this we have already discussed. Integer is discussed. Now next is called a date and timestamp. These are the data type which allow you to store a date or time value, which allow you to store the date or a time value. Simple. Now what do you mean by the date or time? Date means it's only the date, month, and year. But what if I want to store the hours, minutes, and seconds also? So if we are using only the date, then you should use the data type as a date. And if we use, or if we want hours and minutes also to be stored, then we should be using a time stamp. Store till the seconds. And it's only month, date, and year. But here it does not mean it is not taking the hours, minutes, and seconds. It is having the hours, minutes, and seconds, but that is rounded up till the date. Rounded. Simple here. And timestamp is exploring entire value up till the seconds, or you can say the milliseconds as well. Clear here? So in today's lecture, we have discussed about mostly the data types to be used for creating the tables. In the next lecture, we will practically create a table, because now we have all the 4 pieces of requirement handy. Table name, column name, data type, and size. Now you know the size also, you know the data type as well, and we can create a table. So for today, we can stop it here. We'll continue in the next lecture. Thank you very much.